I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I came out here one day and talked to Colonel Lynn. Apparently he hired me. He was in a hurry because he was going to get married that afternoon. So I don't know if he remembers hiring me or not.
It was to be a place that he could go and teach a couple of years. And then we'd go on to either law school or some sort of graduate work, and then decide after that where we wanted to be. The basketball job became available, and I've been here ever since.
He was not someone who was a coach who, in addition, taught a few classes. He was a teacher who also happened to be a very successful basketball coach and track coach.
When I was playing for him, I thought of him and John Wooden in the same context.
The sustained success that all of his teams had, to me, means far more than how many state championships a school earned.
Coach Peters understood that most games were won before the opening tip-off rather than after.
Our hallmark was doing well against teams that were actually more talented than we were.
One thing that has stuck with me is the essence of sports is execution under pressure.
Some years he had a bunch of short people, some years he had good athletes, and he was able to create a system for each of those different types of teams, and it helped them win lots of games.
Our clumsiest player in the 10th grade was Tom Verdeja, who couldn't jump over a bench or a coat case and almost not over a painted line on the floor. So we started working with him on the painted line.
So he was very concerned about attention to detail and doing those details exactly right.
He approaches coaching, I would say, like a classroom. He's a magnificent teacher. I'd say he's a teacher of the game.
He was always reading books, always watching other teams, trying to learn, because he knew we can all get better.
One of my favorite things he said to me was, if I can't count on you to do the little things, then how am I going to count on you to do the big things?
He would show us how to put on our uniforms. He would go through and have one player stand up and show all the team in what order you're supposed to put on the jersey and the shorts and everything.
He had a rule that you had to go home, you had to shower after practice, and you had to wear a hat. You had to cover your head before you went home. And so Scott and I left practice one day without doing that.
Mom answered the phone and said, Coach Peters is telling you, it's time to come back. You got to come back up. And I said, for what? And she said, you didn't take a shower. Never left without taking a shower again, though.
Scott and David were starters of the team, and no one was better than the rules.
We became bigger than a bunch of individuals. We became a team.
Coach Peters used to talk about mental toughness, and when he wanted to demonstrate that point, we did something called the potty drill.
This was excruciating, and he would always say, we're going to do it for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And he had his stopwatch, as he always did, and when clearly the time stated had passed and people were complaining, he would always say, well, we're going to do a little bit of extra, as he would say. And if someone continued to complain, he would always say, quit your bitching.
We had a snow day. Jerry would get in his car and go down Poplar down to McLean, where we had some guys live, and he wouldn't leave Poplar, but he said, all you guys can get to Poplar, and I'm picking you all up. So he'd come down Poplar and stop wherever the closest intersection was with your street and pick us up. We'd go to practice, but I swear I don't know how we got home.
But at the end of the day, it was all about fundamentals and basics and values. He had a very simple concept, and he was a very strong proponent of a great work ethic.
Despite all of Jerry's demands and his do's and his don'ts, it took.
It's like in life, if you find something you love doing, then it's not really work.
They say a train is no good without its tracks, and one small glitch in the system and the train is derailed. My mother's been that set of tracks for my dad. She's always been his biggest fan and still is.
Since 1960, I have missed 2 basketball games. And I was not happy about that at all.
The state championship game in 2007. I remember that game because I wasn't there.
It was evident that he had a stroke, and we're all trying to get him to go to the hospital. And the bus was getting ready to leave in about 2 hours.
And Coach Bakke and I just sat down with him in the locker room and said, "We're sorry, but you're not going to be able to go. We need to take you to the hospital." And we all cried.
He had installed all the schemes that we were executing. It was just a matter of us continuing to do what he had put in place. And so Coach Bakke and I kept looking at each other saying, we can't screw this up. Don't screw this up.
Before the last game, the state game, I talked to him on the phone, and I said, any words of advice to the guys? He said, it's time to play.
My son John would call on the phone at the end of each quarter and tell us what was going on. And it was a big thrill to get that final call saying that we'd won the championship.
We could hear them in the background of the telephone yelling, "Jerry, Jerry, Jerry."
And the 2007 Division II TSSAA state champions, Memphis University School.
The best measure of a coach is what they do when I'm not there to tell them what to do. And I think that was a perfect example of that.
I remember the remark Matt Bakke made, which was, we didn't win the games or the championship for him. We won the championship because of him.
The assistant coaches and the players are able to go function at the biggest event of the year without, their leader's guidance. I think that said more about Coach Peters than if he was there almost.
And we got a telephone call, "Can you roll him in his wheelchair downstairs?" I said, "Well, of course." The bus pulled up.
They came up to the lobby and met me down there and presented me with the championship trophy.
That was a real life Hoosiers kind of moment. I mean, you don't see that very often.
It was just a big season coming to a climax.
One of my greatest thrills of knowing Coach Peters was when we were in Carbondale at a tournament, and I knew I had arrived as a parent on his squad when he allowed me to be the one that washed the socks and the jocks. And that was huge for him to allow me to do that. So because he taught them how to dress properly, how to shower properly, all those things. And I knew it was an awesome responsibility I had been given that night in the hotel that we were all staying in.
As you know, to win 20 games in a basketball season is really a big accomplishment. That's always a good year. And to have to do it for 50 years to get 1,000 wins is just unbelievable.
I mean, there was a guy sitting next to me that had driven nonstop from Lexington, Virginia, and planned to be there till they won.
It was about what they learned about success in life. That's what he taught all of us. That's why we all came back.
With 1,000 wins, he has 1,000 lessons that he's taught all of us, and those are going to last a lot more than the wins.
I've said many times, MUS is really a school for a lifetime. And if MUS is a school for a lifetime, you're a coach for a lifetime.
Coach, you lived a good life, and you have influenced hundreds and hundreds of boys in the right way so that today they're good men.
Nobody's indispensable. I said, that's true, Coach, but some people are irreplaceable, and you're one of them.
Every day I can hear you in what I say to the young men I'm in charge of in my program.
I would say I love you. Thank you for being a great father, a great husband, coach, teacher, mentor.
I don't know that he knows that we feel the way we do in terms of looking to him as a role model just for how we behave, how we do things, how we raise our children. We just don't talk a whole lot about that. We generally talk about basketball.
We never once thought we didn't have everything that we needed in life,
and they were just tremendous parents, and I would just say thanks.
And he wanted us to go to MUS and have this experience, and so he made some sacrifices for us, and that's hard to put in words how much that means to us.
Coach Peters took on stress and took on, sleepless nights and took on the hard work of meticulous preparation for us, and it just meant so much. I mean, there's nothing more than you want as a growing adult, as a kid trying to grow up, than to have somebody pour themselves into you like that.
So I was his greatest fan all these years, his very greatest fan, and I wouldn't take anything for the long ride.
My teaching and my coaching have pretty much consumed my time. I have my faith, I have my family, and then I have my work. That pretty much consumes me.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them blue for me and you. And I say to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, bright sunny days, dark sacred nights, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see friends shaking hands, say, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I see babies cry, oh, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I say to myself, what a wonderful